After the rally in Charlottesville over the weekend, Nazis, white nationalists, and members of the KKK are getting fired from their jobs. And it seems like the logical conclusion, right? You get caught in a rally as a white nationalist or a member of the KKK or a Nazi, and your employer sees you and realizes, maybe I don't want this person working here anymore. So they fire them. Well, it makes sense for most of us, but for some people, it's raising questions about the employer-employee dynamic. So this is Michael Tracey, a reporter for the Young Turks, who had this to say about it. No sympathy for them, but guys getting fired from pizza chains and supermarket jobs for attending a political rally is a little unnerving. At the very least, such firings raise serious questions about the employer-employee power dynamic. So upon first glance, you might think that Tracey has a point, because if an employer can fire you for being a Nazi, then who's to say that you can't get fired for being a libertarian or a conservative or a liberal? But what Tracey doesn't really understand here is that Nazism isn't just political speech, it's pure hate. So reading through a ton of Tracey's tweets, his main defense is that because this was a political rally, then it means anyone else with opposing political views of their employer is at the threat of getting fired. But to reduce Nazism to just political speech de-emphasizes just how repugnant Nazi ideology is. I mean, Nazism is about racial hierarchy. It's about taking rights away from specific groups of people. To Nazis, the white race is superior to everyone else. It's not an idea that's at the forefront of libertarian ideology, conservatism, or anything else. To think that actions taken against one form of hateful political speech can now lead to actions taken against any form of political speech is flawed absolutist thinking. So let me give you a few other examples so you can better understand. So Spotify just recently announced that they're deleting white supremacist music off of their app. Now, does that mean that Christian rock is at threat of being deleted? I would say no. And you may have saw that GoDaddy and then Google booted the Nazi site The Daily Stormer off their websites. Does that mean that libertarian websites like Reason.com is now at threat of being booted off too? No. And another example, as an American, you have the right to own a gun. But does that mean that you can also go buy a tank or go buy a bazooka? No, because there are limits to everything. So just because an employer can fire a Nazi doesn't mean that employer can now turn around and get away with firing you because you want universal healthcare. And if they try to, you can fight them on it. And this gets to the heart of Michael Tracey's issue, which he points out in this tweet. I'm talking about freedom of speech, not necessarily the First Amendment, which was easily refuted in this tweet by Kevin Donnelly. It'd be a freedom of speech issue if a law was passed saying it's illegal to hire Nazis or white supremacists. I'd argue against that. But no such law exists and none is coming. You are free to hire as many white supremacists as you want. Just don't force the rest of us to. And I can't put it any better than that. You can hire a Nazi or white supremacist if you want to, but don't force the rest of us to. So, if a grocery store doesn't want a Nazi bagging groceries for the old lady down the street, don't make them. It doesn't make any sense to try and form this argument where you're protecting employee rights to the point that it's impeding the lives of other people. So this is the issue that I have with, I'm not sure where Michael Tracey stands on ideology, but this is the issue I have with a lot of strict libertarian thinking. They don't take into account how the human brain works, how societies interact. They just go based on strict ideology without seeing how it may actually, or understanding how it may actually work in the real world. And I think it's important to point out that Michael Tracey is just one reporter at the Young Turks. I would be shocked to find out if anyone else that works there agrees with him here. So he tends to be the dissenting voice within that organization. And honestly, I think it's okay to have that, because it allows these sorts of debates to happen.